we all looked up, and there's this giant orange orb just like hovering over my house, dropping like other little orange orbs.
Yeah, so you were like actively like trying to like communicate with these.
Once your mind is open and you've opened that door, there's no, there's no turning back. So it's Gucci, baby.
Hey, thanks for being here, man. Thanks for hanging out. Esoteric Eddie TV.
Esoteric Eddie, what up?
What's good, man? All right, everybody. So we got the guest here. In a short time, I'm gonna let him introduce himself. But thanks everybody for hanging out. Let's start by telling the people, who you are and what it is that you do.
So I go by a lot of different aliases, but one of the evident ones right now is Push Button Beats from San Marcos, California. I'm a full-time music producer, photographer, social media marketer, part-time vigilante, conspiracy theorist, devoted hip-hop head, sneakerhead, the list goes on. So thanks for having me. It's been a minute, and I'm excited to be a part of the show.
Shit. I don't even remember the first time I met you. It's been that long, my memory's just like shot out. But I remember you were a legend, in North County, San Diego. I mean, the work that you've done for San Diego and California and just hip hop in general has been monumental for sure. And I remember the first time I heard you, though, it was on Attic One's Collective Culture CD, dropped back in like 2008.
Yeah,
You were on
that's a
that
long time.
project. Yeah, and that project was like huge for North County, San Diego, or just SoCal in general. But specifically, that project is what like influenced me and a lot of my cousins and homies to get into hip hop. And you were on that project back in 2008, and you had this dope ass song. And back in the day, you used to have long ass dreads, right? You had dreads down to your ankles.
Yeah, I had some dreads for about, I want to say like 10, 11 years. I started growing them out in probably like ninth grade. And yeah, I was just, when I was super young, I just kind of, I don't know. I had like a spiritual epiphany of sorts, and I've always kind of had like a spiritual side to me, and we'll touch base on that a little later. But if you know the story of Samson and Delilah, Samson actually received a majority of his strength from his hair. And basically, if you study Rastafarianism, if you study any type of real ancient African culture, they will tell you that dreadlocks are basically like human antennas for receiving energy and like spiritual divine healing and strength. So that's kind of why I adapted the ideology of wanting to grow dreads, was basically just to alter my energy and just to just be more connected to the Most High at the time.
Damn, and you were doing that in ninth grade.
Yeah.
So when did you first get into like psychedelics or like smoking weed and all of that?
Well, for one, my birthday's on 4/20, so that was kind of a no-brainer. Growing up, everybody was like, dude, your birthday's on 4/20. And I never knew what 4/20 was growing up, as a young buck. And then, because it was always my older homies, like the skating homies, the dudes that were, already smoking, were like, what, your birthday's on 4/20? And then, like, I got, I did some research on what 4/20 was, and 4/20 basically is the penal code in the system for being popped with marijuana. So it kind of just became a celebratory thing at that point. So I started smoking weed like in junior high school, and back then, I don't want to make myself sound too old, but man, like, I remember when the Chronic first came out, bro, and That shit,
Damn.
that shit was lit when the Chronic came out, man. I'll tell you that much.
Ooh,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I mean, it was an interesting time, to like, because we were smoking Mexican weed, bro, back then. You know what I mean? And then the
Yeah.
Chronic came out, and it was just fucking next level, like weed, next level experience to just get that lit off of fucking such a small amount of herb, and then that just changed the game.
Yeah, no, dude, I remember that too. Like, I remember having to pay like $20 for straight up like 1.0 of some whack ass shit. It was always like on the dot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the weed game definitely has changed a lot. That's for sure.
So you're privy to conspiracy theories. You know what's up. Me and you've had a lot of conversations on this stuff. A lot of your music has been about that. At least some of the older stuff.
Yeah, no,
So
I've always kind of you thought outside of the box when it came down to things that were happening in this world, and always try to have like just an open mind to things that are out there, the unknown and the paranormal, and just the way our society has been controlled and ran for long periods of time.
yeah, yeah. When did you first get into conspiracies? What led you down that path?
Um, to be honest, like a lot of this stuff started around like being in junior high school and high school, and like I said, like I just had this spiritual epiphany at a very young age, and I had a sixth sense at a very young age. So growing up, I used to see all types of spirits and entities, elementals, omens. I used to see a lot of UFOs growing up in my neighborhood, and I think back then I was a lot more clairvoyant than I am now because, at the time I was experimenting also with like a lot of psychedelics, mushrooms, acid, mescaline, peyote, a bunch of stuff. And I think it really just, once you open that gateway and you open up your third eye and you open up that door, there's no closing that door again. It's like
Yeah,
once your mind is open and you've opened that door, there's no turning back. So just growing up super young, man, like I just knew like there was other stuff out there, and I was a very inquisitive person. I was doing yoga at a very young age. I was meditating at a young age. So I did dabble into like a lot of that stuff really early, and I just started to take initiative in doing my own research and picking up books and reading things about the mind and the power of the mind, the power of breath, things about just extraterrestrial paranormal activity that's been documented and things of that nature. So just super early, like I started experimenting with like all this stuff.
yeah, yeah. I want to get more into that, but real quick, where did you grow up?
San Marcos, California.
Oh hell yeah, dude. Yep, you already know that's my hometown too.
Yes, sir.
I miss it, man.
Yeah, man. I always miss you when you're in town. You're only in town for like a couple days, then you're out.
Uh, I know I'll be back soon enough, but even then, when I get back, it's gonna be like grind time working on things. But for sure, for sure. So, damn, I didn't even know that about you. That you said you used to like see entities and shit when you were younger.
Yeah,
So,
it was
tell me.
it was pretty traumatizing. I'll be honest with you. I grew up uh, on the corner of Linda Vista and Rancho Santa Fe, and my house, for me personally, how I felt it was a bus stop for paranormal activity, and the things I would experience there on the paranormal side were just pretty unique and pretty particular, and that's kind of a point in my life where like a lot of crazy shit was happening to me. Like when I lived in this house, like not only did I see ghosts, but I was looking at UFOs in the sky. I would see them at all times of the day, during the day, during the night, and I don't know. know, I feel like back then, like I said, like they were a lot more visible to me than they are now because, um, like I was really embarking upon something that like I wanted it to reveal itself to me. And when you're meditating and when you're really just exercising these certain, you know, mental practices, you can actually put yourself in a meditational trance and vibration to vibrate at the same frequency they're on, so that you can actually see what's going on for just a, it's just a moment, you know what I mean? It's not anything too long, but you know, you could see some crazy stuff if you really focus your energy.
Yeah, so you were like actively like trying to like communicate with these
Oh yeah.
aliens. Did anything ever like manifest in front of you?
Not like I said, not in front of me. Like I've seen multiple spacecrafts throughout my young adolescent life, and one experience that I'll never forget that I actually had the opportunity to bear witness with a couple of my friends. We had got back from a party, and you know, we were smoking a bowl out in my driveway, chilling, and you know, we all looked up, and there's this giant orange orb just like hovering over my house. And so we're sitting there thinking, oh, it's like a plane or whatever, you know, we're tripping on it. And then, like, you know, a couple minutes go by, it's still there. And 5 minutes go by, it's still there. So next thing you know, this orange orb starts dropping like other little orange orbs. And it's almost like it's leaking like liquid lights, like it's like dropping these liquid orbs, and it just kept dropping these liquid orbs, and then it just kept like moving and forming around the original orb. And like three of my buddies till this day can attest to that, and you know, vouch for me that we all saw the same thing, and it just stood there for a while, and then it just disappeared.
Yeah, that's wild, dude. It's always these orb things. You know, I've spoken on this pretty frequently. It's like it's never really these mechanical ships. It's always these orb things. And there's documents going back to the medieval times of these orbs. You know, so it's like what's going on with these orbs, man? They're sentient or something.
Well,
But
they're saying that these, the reason they look like orbs is because, for one, they're multi-dimensional um, you know, energy sources. So the reason we don't see them in their full light, in their true form, is because they are vibrating at such a high frequency that from time to time they shift into our dimension. But when they shift into our dimension, since we are not vibrating at their frequency in its entirety, that we can only see certain forms of their, you know, their energy. And that's why it's never the actual physical craft or a physical completion of some sort of mechanical object. It's an orb because it's vibrating at such a rapid speed that it's just pure radiant energy, and it's just glowing at such a rapid frequency.
damn, yo. Yeah, and it's kind of crazy too how like in the Bible, Jesus at the end, Jesus shows his true form or whatever, and they're just like all like flabbergasted, and he's just like, we saw the master in his true form.
Well, I
You
mean,
know, it's
if you think about the book of Leviticus, and you think about Moses' story, there, there's a lot of theories behind that, that Moses wasn't speaking to God, that Moses was speaking to extraterrestrial beings, that Moses was actually guided by extraterrestrial beings, and the craft was actually the one splitting the Red Sea. So they were saying that when Moses was leading people on the mission of Exodus, in order to evade the Pharaoh and all of his men, that there was a spacecraft that came down and vibrated at such a high frequency at such a low level that it actually split apart the sea, allowing Moses and his people to be set free.
oh yeah, damn, aliens in the Bible, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
it's a crazy, you know, it's a crazy thought process to have. It's a crazy theory, but I mean, you know, anything is possible at this point.
You know me, man. You know I'm all about aliens and the Bible type of stuff. But yeah, I mean, to me, you've always been known as Moses. That's how I know you, as Moses, because that was your rap name. So is that why you chose to go by Moses?
Yeah, it's a definite part of it. You know, growing up, I hung out with a lot of like older homies, older hip hop heads, and you know, I started rapping and doing my thing. I had one homie one day. He was like, "Man," he's like, "your words are just so captivating." He's like, "You're just, you know, somebody I could listen to." He's like, "You're kind of like Moses. You have the ability to like lead people." And I was just like, oh, kind of had like a light bulb in my head. I'm like, maybe I should go by that, you know?
Yeah, yeah, tight. I want to get into the hip hop in a second, but I want to go back to that orb story you were telling us.
Yeah.
Do you remember what year that was?
Shit, bro. It had to have been honestly like 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago.
Shit. And I asked because you know, I grew up in San Marcos too. That's my hometown, and I've had a lot of weird experiences with people and by myself. And there was this one night where I was spending the night at my homie's house over there by the Prominence Apartments by Cal State. And I remember waking up in the middle of the night, hearing this humming noise, just like this droning noise, and it was like freaking me out and like giving me like heart palpitations. And I was like, what the heck? So I got up, and my friend, both me and him were like crashed out on the couch, and I was trying to figure out what that noise was. I was like, is that his refrigerator? So I got up and creeping around his house, like, look, put my ear to his refrigerator. I'm like, it's not the refrigerator. I'm like, they don't have a washer and dryer. Like, what the fuck is that noise? Like, it was like very like prominent, just like droning. And so like I started freaking out. I like woke him up. I was like, bro, my homie Weddle, he was like always over my like conspiracy craziness. So I'm like shaking him in the middle of the night, and he's like, what, dude? I'm like, do you hear that? He's like, what? I'm like, shh. He was already over it, but I'm like freaking out, dude. I'm like, whatever. So I tried to go to sleep. And then the next morning, his older brother, without me telling him the story, was like, yo, I had the craziest dream last night that I got abducted. And then out of nowhere, he has like this weird like incision or cut like on his arm or some shit that looked weird as hell. And so I was just freaking out. So I was wondering maybe it was around the same time, dude.
Yeah, no, this was a long time ago, dude. So, like I
this was
said,
a long time ago too, dude. This was like 2009-ish, maybe even 8.
yeah. So another, you know, funny experience about the UFOs that I used to see growing up in my neighborhood. Every 4th of July for like 4 years, I used to see UFOs after the fireworks. And what these UFOs would do is they would actually emulate the entire orchestration of fireworks. So they would, it would be like, you know, just it would be like an oval like light, and it would start emitting color sequences like fireworks. So it would do everything a firework would do, and then it would go back to its original form, which would be like an oval, like bright light, and it would just like dip off into space. Like I literally have seen one do that emulated the entire color sequence of fireworks, but it was deep into the sky. So, you know, obviously it couldn't have been fireworks because it was above, you know, where fireworks would usually be. And
Yeah.
it was smaller, and it would just emulate all these like firework sequences, and it would move and then do some firework sequences. And then one time I just saw it like just dip into the sky, and it looked like the dark sky had sucked it in and just like engulfed it into the black sky, the black abyss, and it was gone. And I saw that for like 4 years. I saw a spacecraft emulate the color sequence of fireworks. So they're very inquisitive beings. They're very curious, and they like mimicking things on Earth. And that's why a lot of the times we can't tell sometimes if it's an actual object or stars. So they'll completely blanket themselves in the sequence of a constellation. And they'll hide themselves in the darkness of night, and then, you know, move around and do what they got to do. Obtain information, communicate with people, you know, take a rest. Because, I mean, a lot of the times, these spacecrafts and these outer dimensional beings are really just harvesting our planet for energy.
Mm.
And we have so many minerals and essential elements on Earth that their spacecrafts needs, that they basically mine planet Earth for like all these minerals and energy sources.
Wild, man. Yeah, I definitely believe some of these things are like just sentient beings. There's probably definitely crafts, but some of them are just like beings in their own right kind of thing, you know? But yeah, we can get onto UFOs all day, man. But I want to transition into your hip hop career because that's a huge part of your life's work.
Oh yeah.
And I met you. So how did you get into hip hop? You know, and before we get into that, I just want everybody to know listening that, like, you know, Moses One right here, like, in huge integral part of specifically North County, San Diego hip hop, but like, you know, just hip hop in general in California, man. Like, you did a lot for the people. But how did you get into hip hop? What was that like?
So growing up, uh, I was just always inspired by music, and um, excuse me. I think a lot of it came from like having like older friends and just an older cousin that was into music. So like I think once I heard like Tupac and the Beastie Boys, that was a wrap for me, and then it just kind of evolved into listening to the Wu Tang, Ice Cube, um, DJ Premier, Afu Ra, The Artifact, Souls of Mischief, Hyro. It's just living legends. So it just kind of all transcended in a way where it inspired me so much that like I never saw myself doing anything ever again, like at a very young age. So I was in junior high when I had gotten like a mixtape from like Living Legends or like Mystic Journeyman or Three Melancholy Gypsies, Log Cabin Crew. So like this is when like hip hop was fucking raw, like at its finest. We're talking ciphers, motherfuckers like bumping tapes and shit. You know what I mean? Like this was an era of hip hop that was just so fucking pure and raw that like I just loved it, and I got into it like super early.
Hell yeah, dude. So did you have any like early MC names?
Yeah, I used to go by David the Gnome, or David the Known, and Essage, which is my real name backwards. I might bring Essage back. That's pretty dope.
Yeah, dude. I'm telling you, that track you had in Local Culture, I still bump that shit to this day, dude. Die Living. How can you die if you never really lived?
Yeah,
That
that's
song is
yeah,
sick.
man. I'm really when it comes down to the music thing, I had a conversation with somebody about it just not too long ago, and I just really kind of got disheartened about my journey with music, and because the success rate for people trying to make it in the music industry is minuscule. It's literally like 1%. It's a 1% success rate, and it's super difficult, to like not only like go against the machine, but to do everything independently, and then to do it at such a young age without like a clear knowledge of like how to properly market your shit.
Yeah.
That can be very discouraging. So that's when I kind of like adopted the whole producer aspect into my arsenal. And
Yep.
once I started making money, like producing, that's when I was like, okay, well, like this is working for me, so I think I'll keep doing it. So I just stayed producing for a while.
Yeah, we'll get into that, but let's let's backtrack a little bit. So you get into hip hop, you know, middle school and then high school, and so when did you start like actually performing and start making your own like waves in the culture?
So probably outside of high school. So like 2000, like three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were some of the first like big shows that you did, if you can remember?
Shit, man, fucking Immortal Technique, Idea, Dead Prez, um, fucking the list goes on, man. So many people.
Yeah. Yeah. You got any notable like crazy shows or like just crazy like after parties and shit
Oh
like
man,
during that era?
so many, so many experiences, so many fun times. Where we just shut shit down and just partied and did a bunch of cool stuff, and it was awesome, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that being said, what prompted you to cut the dreads?
Just a new start, a new shift in energy. Just excuse me. Just you just got over the stereotypes too. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people would stereotype me, and just got over it, man. It just gets tiring, and like I said, energetically, I was just ready to like just cut all that energy off and start fresh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know we've had conversations in the past about your jail time. So you've been in jail. You know the
Yeah,
system.
I've been incarcerated a few times, and it's not anything I'm proud of. But it was part of my experience on Earth, and it was something that I was able to navigate through gracefully, and something that I don't ever plan on doing again. And it was definitely quite an experience.
Yeah, I think it was you that told me that you came across Bill Cooper's "Behold the Pale Horse" in jail.
Yeah,
Was that you?
yeah, I did a lot of reading while I was incarcerated, and I mean that's really all there is to do in there is to read and work out and meditate and focus on the things that you should have been doing and that you need to be doing when you leave that place. So definitely got a lot of books under my belt when I was in there. Also read an interesting book called The Secret Life of Plants and Man. It's an excellent book based on the study based in La Jolla that was conducted on experimenting with plants and acknowledging that plants and trees are just as alive as every other microorganism on this planet, and how plants are very uh, telekinetic, and they have a very strong energy field that unknowingly is unbeknownst to humans, but is very prevalent in the spiritual divine realm. So great book. I know you're into books, so I think it's a book that you should add to your collective if you have the opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. What was it
It's
called?
called The Secret Life of Plants and Man.
Oh, okay. And that study was done in La Jolla, California.
Yeah, and the book was done like probably like I don't know, like fucking 50 years ago or something like
Damn.
that.
Yeah, I gotta check it out. 'Cause I'm working on my new book. It's on consciousness, and I in the second chapter I cover consciousness, and there's a little part where I talk about plants and stuff like that. So I might have to add that in there,
Yeah,
man.
no, it's an interesting read, and it basically goes into detail about how plants can read your mind, how plants are stimulated by human behavior. Um, you know, even when they conduct studies on plants, and they put a certain plant in a room and they bump music for that plant, like they'll bump like classic orchestra music, and then the other one they might bump like 90s gangster rap or something like that. The one listening to gangster rap will die, and then the one listening to like classical orchestra music will like thrive and live on. And so like it's a book that just basically goes into depth about how like the energy field of our vegetation life is magnetic and it's kinetic, and it should go to prove that what you put into your body has a lot to do with this life force as well, because plants are alive. And when you think about being a health conscious individual, you want to strive to put in electric foods into your system, and foods that are alive that provide information and knowledge and wisdom from the earth into your body. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, dude. It's like when you're taking mushrooms. I always say that like when we take mushrooms, we're communing with the mushroom's consciousness, and that's what the shroom trip is. It's like us like experiencing their consciousness. And you've done a lot of psychedelics. What are some notable trips you've had?
Um, well, for the most part, I did a lot of different ones, but some that I could stand on, or just one that I could stand on, would just be mushrooms. I mean, they're the closest natural thing to tripping without any modifications by man. So I think mushrooms are probably like the safest way to go if you are trying to embark upon a spiritual journey. If you are trying to tap into that spectrum, I think shrooms are the way to go. And anytime I did take mushrooms, there's always been a deep, unified connection that I've had with every living organism that has existed in this realm. And everything becomes timeless, and you are literally unified with space and time. And I've always enjoyed that about mushrooms, that it just really shows you, like, the message I've always got from taking mushrooms was that everything is connected.
Yeah.
And when you are that deep into that trance and that feeling, you start to realize that everything is connected. We are all one. We all come from the same energy force. We all come from the same source, the higher source. And it's a beautiful feeling, and you can obtain that feeling as well through transcendental meditation. But it does take some practice and some time to really develop that connection and that discipline.
Yeah, dude, I totally agree. And it's interesting how a lot of us come to that conclusion. And I just got done reading some of Nikola Tesla's work, and that was one of the things that he realized too towards the end of his life, is that he realized that the universe is interconnected by what he called ether. There's an ether that interconnects everything. So it's like the highest knowledge that there is to understand is that there's this interconnectivity. But I think that's just level one. It's like it's telling us, hey, like it's all interconnected, but it gets deeper because as I've discovered through Nikola Tesla's papers and some of these declassified NASA papers, they're realizing that that interconnectivity, that ether, is a fuel source, and it might be what these UFOs and stuff are using as this self-efficient fuel source. It would be like a submarine moving through water, but using that same water it's moving through as its fuel source. You would have an endless supply of fuel. But it's not just about fuel, it could also be about energetic power, within your body and mind. So it's interesting how we always come to that, conclusion that everything is one. There's this interconnectivity. And another quick thing too, I did a little reel on that recently because guys like, what's his name, Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever, they'll say, oh, there's no objective truth in psychedelics. It's all subjective. But by definition, if everybody's coming to the same conclusion, that's objective truth.
Yeah, I think it does unlock a lot of locked doors in the mind. And granted, there are some theories out there that suggest that, certain experiences are subjective. But, I mean, if you're talking about DMT, which is something that is completely life-changing and, super extreme, and everybody's seeing the exact same thing on DMT or the exact same thing on mushrooms, I think it's safe to say that the collective that does do these experimental psychedelic trips is really onto something. And I think a lot of the times, this truth is covered up for specific reasons, and a lot of people don't want the information to be revealed to the masses for whatever purpose. That could be to further mentally enslave people, to keep them oppressed, to keep people living in fear, because fear is the main weapon of choice that is on this planet, and fear is being used to allow us to operate at such a low vibrational frequency to keep the masses controlled. So what psychedelics do is they actually break you on through the other side, and
Yeah.
they they allow you to really have an open perspective on life and really question things, or to feel things, or to see things, and to really tap into that higher consciousness, to be able to make these choices for yourself, to be able to determine, what's real, what's fake, what isn't. Just question everything. That's always been kind of like my mentality, is always like there's endless possibilities to endless questions we ask. Like, I've never been a conformist. I've never been somebody that really runs with Western ideology, whether it's history or medicine, or anything like that. Like, I've always like questioned like other sources, other theories, things of that nature.
Yeah, for real, man. Just trying to keep us in that fear-based mindset, dude. But with that being said, I mean, me and you talked a lot of politics over the years. So what are your thoughts on politics, on the American two-wing system?
I think it's an interesting time to be alive. I think it's very exciting. Um, I think there is a great reset happening on both sides of the spectrum, and I think it's positive and I think it's negative. But at the end of the day, it's something that has preordained, um, you by universal law, and these things need to happen. They need to come to light, and there is a great awakening happening, which people are having a higher consciousness, and they're having a real deep awakening to understand that, just like I said, like there's more than what meets the eye right now. You know what I mean? And people are starting to finally question everything. They're starting to question the system. They're starting to question, judicial law. They're starting to question politics. They're starting to question authority. They're starting to question medicine, and they're starting to question control. And I think this is a beautiful time to be alive, because there is a shift happening right now, and people are finally starting to wake up. And I think right now I think, life imitates art and art imitates life. And I think right now we are living literally in one of the biggest movie sets that has ever existed in life. Like, life is just one gigantic movie. And right now, like, all these politicians, all these actors, like all these public figures, like they're just actors on the big screen, on the big stage, and they're just doing their part. They're acting out what they need to act out to really unveil what is to come. And I think it's not up to them to decide what happens in our future. It's not up to them to determine what, dictates our life in the next 5 to 10 years. I think right now the ball is in our court, and our court is the collective consciousness of humanity. It's the everyday Joe Schmo. It's fucking Dick and Larry. It's fucking Evie and Lisa. It's all these people, and it's time for them to really choose a side. And that side really isn't on a political spectrum. It's a life spectrum, and it isn't about right wing politics or left wing politics, because they're all controlled by the same fucking machine. They're all under the same umbrella, and it's just one gigantic Broadway play. And it is up to the audience to determine the ending of this movie.
Damn. Yeah, dude. Yeah, you're right. So many people are waking up. And, guys like me and you, we've seen this for over a decade. We've been privy to this for a long time, and it's kind of funny, but definitely cool to see so many people waking up you know, in our families and friend groups and out there in the world. You know, is there anybody in your family or friend group that like was always like kind of like a naysayer that like now is like all into it and shit?
Oh yeah, I have quite a few friends that used to kind of trip on me and kind of be like, "You're crazy, man. You're tripping." But next thing you know, now they're all watching Alex Jones. They're on BitChute. They're on Rumble. They're looking up. They're texting me all these videos. They're sending me videos online and all this stuff. So it's cool to see, because we are living in a society that's based off of information. And the internet was created as a tool of deception, was created as a tool of control, was created as a tool that the government could use to obtain control over the masses. But their downfall was that it's also very beneficial to the little guy, to the underdog, and to the guy that's fighting the system, because now people are sharing information worldwide through literally a device that's in the palm of their hands every day. So people are, using, internet and cell phones, to the best of their ability for what it's worth. And they're sharing information, they're sharing your videos, they're following Esoteric Eddie, they're following you on TikTok, they're following you on YouTube. So, it's something that is very beneficial for the grand awakening for just the everyday human being. And like I said, there is a shift happening because more and more people you would have never expected to kind of like, really embark upon these journeys are starting to wake up. And it was always going to be that way, though. You know what I mean? Like, it was already predestined for that to happen, because everybody at some point in time will question life, will question the authority, will question the system, and will question where they came from. But since, being conscious and being somebody that's, privy to like paranormal activity and things like that, like it's starting to be more of a common trend in society now, where you see it on the internet more, and then the algorithm kind of feeds that more. It feeds that monster more. So the system and the elites are fucking up because they created this algorithm to keep us oppressed. But at the same time, the algorithm, if you're looking up things that are beneficial and healthy and health conscious, it's actually adding fuel to the fire to people like me and you, because now we don't have to go so far to find this information. We don't have to dig down deep to fucking China to pull some fucking treasure chest out. Like, we don't have to go deep into the ocean to fucking pull out some ancient scrolls. Like, this shit is fucking on the internet, and this fire is spreading like crazy. This snowball is starting to snowball and have a crazy snowball effect, and this shit's just getting fucking nuts, dude. Like, this shit is getting lit. This shit's about to really take off, and there really is going to be a great fucking awakening that this world has never witnessed, and it's time. And I think people are fucking ready, of all shapes and sizes, of all creed, of all races, of all colors, of all consciousness. People, like, whether they're ready or not, like, this shit's gonna fucking pop off, dude. And like, we're living in that time right now.
Hell yeah, dude. I'm excited for it, man. Yeah, man. Never before information is just coming out, and we're interconnected more than ever. You know, it goes back to that one, the interconnectivity, the ether. You know, we're all connected. You know, we need to stop looking at our cell phones as just these useless devices, man. It's an Akashic walkie-talkie. You know?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, and it's easy to get distracted by this weaponry. It's easy to get distracted by what they're force feeding us, through social media, through what's going on TV, things of that nature. It's easy to get distracted, but like I said, the algorithm is starting to work against their favor, and it's working better for us, because now if we are doing a deep dive on Instagram, on TikTok, well, what do you think's going to happen when you're looking up Esoteric Eddie, or where you're looking up videos of the truth and truth seekers? What do you think is going to come back? You're going to get more and more people popping up on your feed that are speaking their own personal truth. People that are adding to that building block, that are adding to that structure. So it's becoming more of a powerful um, system that is working for our favor. And now, with the beauty of the internet, you can really, have podcasts with people all over the world and discuss these beautiful, delicate topics within seconds, and have a connection that doesn't break, and have it be picture perfect for everybody to drop in and kind of pick up whatever crumbs they need to pick up for their own personal journey and run off with it, and do what they need to do.
Yeah, man. It's the Akashic walkie-talkie, trademarked here. Hey, there's a couple of things I want to cover that you just went over before I forget. You mentioned Alex Jones,
Yeah.
and we've had this conversation before. Is he controlled opposition? What do you think?
That's kind of a touchy subject, because there's parts of me that does believe he is, and then there's parts of me that believes he doesn't. The only reason I believe there is a possibility he can be is because he is still broadcasting for, I mean, 20, 30 years. I mean, he's been on air for 30 years, revealing some of the craziest truths and conspiracies this world has ever known and ever existed, and he is still allowed by the powers that be to spread this light and spread this information. But yet Kanye West does some stupid rant about Jews and some other shit, and basically gets blackballed from the industry, gets his accounts frozen, gets threatened to be put back into MK Ultra, gets threatened to have his kids taken away from him. So, there's parts of me that think that, how can Kanye West, a rapper, producer, industry cat, get subjected to so much backlash when Alex Jones has been talking about this shit for the last 30 fucking years, 35 years.
Yeah.
I
can see that. Yeah, there's definitely favorites. They play favorites in this weird blackballing game.
Well, when it comes down to any type of public figure, that's either, on the right or the left, especially more so on the right, like, I think there's a good possibility that, Alex talks about it all the time. He says, I've been contacted by the elites time and time again. They have asked me several of times to join their side, to join forces with them, and I refuse them. I say no. So, at what cost do you say no, and what else was in that conversation that was left out that are allowing him the time to still operate? I mean, granted, yes, there's some stuff that's going on with Alex that's pretty crazy. The Sandy Hook stuff that happened, other allegations in court, right? But what if this is all just fucking one giant Broadway play on the main stage? Like, they want to, let you know that, like, anybody can be touched, right? Like, it doesn't matter, like, what side you're on. But at the end of the day, like, do we know, like, if this trial was even real?
Who knows, man? Who knows? Yeah, Bill Cooper kind of caught it before anybody else did, or he kind of didn't like Alex Jones during Alex Jones' early years. Bill Cooper and him had kind of a little feud and shit. Bill Cooper was like the guy that Alex Jones, I think, wanted to be or wishes to be.
And the thing about radio back then, though, was Alex had a radio personality. And back then, to make it in radio, like, you had to have a sense of humor. You had to have personality. You had to have charisma and spunk and things like that. And Alex kind of really hit all those fine elements to become a successful radio disc jockey. So he used all these awesome disc jockey abilities and characteristics that he had to really negate his own path and his own narrative. And Bill Cooper was more of just a very stern, educational, informative, serious, solemn individual that just really didn't fuck around. So, like, you know, I mean, I like listening to stuff like that, but let's face it, your reach organically really isn't going to get that far as opposed to somebody with these wild, crazy antics. And Alex is a man of antics, and that's why, you know, he became very successful throughout the course of his history.
Yeah, man. Agreed. Well, getting back to politics and the craziness, when the George Floyd thing hit and there were protests everywhere, I know you had some experience with that. Do you want to talk about some of the crazy shit that you saw?
Yeah, so you know, I was following that whole news story, that coverage, and I mean, it's a very sensitive topic for a lot of people, and you know, I want to speak about this in the most delicate way possible. But I, you know, I felt for the guy. You know, I felt for the guy and what had happened because I've always been anti-establishment. I've always been anti-cops. I've always been on some anarchy shit like fuck the system, fuck the cops because they all suck. I don't care if it's your uncle or your fucking dad's the cool cop. Like fuck all cops, right? So I felt for the guy when this shit happened, and this is before really doing a deep dive into like what was going on behind the scenes, you know. So when that shit happened, it really created a ripple effect all across our nation, right? And there was protests all over our nation, and there was actually a protest in Spring Valley that turned into a giant riot like never before seen. So I caught wind that some shit was going to pop off over there. And I actually went out there with the homegirl and got to document it and check out the riots and the energy out there. And it was extreme, man. It was extreme. It was something that like I probably will never witness again unless shit really pops off. But to see like just this newer generation of people out there like protesting, breaking into cars, breaking in windows, breaking in shops, burning shit down, like it was crazy, man.